Morning, everyone. This is Michael Gibbs, and I'm the founder of Go Cloud Careers. I'm here in Hurricane, Florida right now, and I'm live and online to help you build your best cloud computing career. Maybe you have a goal of becoming a cloud architect or a solution architect, an enterprise architect, a cloud engineer. Whatever the case may be, I want to help you get cloud hired. Personally, I've been working in this technology industry for about 25 years now. I've been an architect for over 20 some years right now, and I've been helping others get their first tech job or get promoted in tech for more than 2 decades. And I want to know that you are going to get cloud hired, and that's why I'm here to answer any questions. I know most people don't know what architects actually are, even though they think they are. They study the wrong things for years and then can never get to their goal. And I want to make it very clear so you know exactly what to learn, exactly the job we actually do to take it there, to get you to your goals. Now, in the next couple of weeks, we've got some really incredible things going on for you to help you build your best cloud computing career. Tomorrow, or Thursday, we have our completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. And in this webinar, we will teach you how to get hired. I'll tell you how to leverage your life experience to show the hiring managers you're ready for work. I'll show you exactly and tell you exactly what the thousands of hiring managers we've spoken to over the years, when in the perfect employees so you know how to get hired. I will show you how to skip HR so you don't get auto-rejected when you lack experience and get your resume into the hands of the hiring manager so you can get hired. Kind of keep that in the back of your mind. I will teach you everything you need to know, what to learn, all completely free tomorrow. Now, in late October through November, we have an AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp. Our boot camps are not like everybody else's. They will be live instruction and they will be free. We will talk for 20 minutes and you can ask questions for 10 minutes every time. That's the cycle. So 20 minutes of questions per hour so you understand it and you get it. And no, it will not be somebody's boring PowerPoint slides with blah, 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 blah in the background. I wouldn't wish that torture on anyone. It'll be live training. We'll be talking like a real classroom, all completely free. And we'll go from the very basics all the way close to the Certified Solution Architect Professional in that same course. There'll be lots of labs you can do in your own time, and you're going to have a great time because I want you all getting cloud hired. And then after that, we're going to do a completely free AWS Advanced Networking Plus class. What's the plus? Here's the plus. The AWS Advanced Networking is too junior to do anything with it, but we're going to add the switching components, the interior gateway protocol components, BGP, the subnetting, supernetting, route aggregation, and all the stuff you need to know. And it will be a real networking course. Personally, I'm one of the first Cisco certified internet experts. I spent nearly a decade at Cisco. Prior to Cisco, I was at WorldCom as a lead architect, which is now Verizon. I was a principal 2 architect at Comcast, another big internet service provider. I was a principal architect at Riverstone Networks, which is now Nokia. And of course, I spent about a decade at Cisco. And of course, I worked on Wall Street and designed systems for banks too. So my world has been networking, and I'll make sure you learn networking by the end of this. Now, follow us on LinkedIn because we're going to have guests, and more guests. On October, I think it's 12th, I'm going to be bringing in Ivan Tamba. He was one of my graduates. He came to us. He was working in a restaurant, and he's now working as a solution architect at AWS, and he's going to talk to you about his life at AWS, what it's like being a cloud architect. It's going to be a great show. I'm going to be bringing in one of the VPs over at NVIDIA, a leader that I've worked with for 20 plus years. And he's going to share the secrets of getting hired, what hiring managers truly want versus what people think they want because they're not the same thing, and how to advance in your career. Again, completely free. Sign up for the links. And currently, we have a fall discount, and the coupon code is 30FALL. And we want to make sure that you've got 30% off of every single program we have. And guess what? That'll get you cloud hired. So many of our students do those programs. We've got one for cloud architects, one for cloud engineers, and I want to get you cloud hired. But why am I here today? I'm here today to help you build your best cloud computing career. And the only way I can do that is if I answer your questions. So please ask us lots of questions in the chat box. But before we did, give me a hashtag cloud hired because that's what we do everything. Some people focus on just getting paper certifications. We get people hired. Our view is totally different. So give me a hashtag cloud hired in the chat box. Tell me what you want to do. Meaning, what's your goals? Meaning cloud architect, cloud engineer, or something like that. And ask us your questions. My team will bring them on, and I'll answer them one by one. Don't be shy. I don't bite. Ciao, fam. Good morning, ciao. Good morning, everyone. Always good to see you, ciao. Jason Lopez, how do you go from cloud support associate to cloud support engineer? Well, that's pretty easy. Now, a support associate and engineer are really basically two things. Here's basically your difference. And Jason Lopez, it's fine for you to do cloud support engineer. If you like support, realize that's going to be the one of those places that's not going to offer you a lot of long-term career potentials in support. But some people love support. And if you love support, it is a great place to be. So what are the things that change you? Now, some of it's tech. A good cloud support engineer needs to be technically competent. And it can't just be you know how to configure stuff on the management console. That's not an engineer. A good cloud support engineer should have good troubleshooting skills. Now, good troubleshooting skills are we're going to be dealing with networking and data center skills, right? What are we troubleshooting? A WAN connection, a network connection, a problem somewhere. So really what we're talking about for the troubleshooting skills are networking skills, data center skills, knowledge of like servers, knowledge of operating systems, knowledge of security, because once we start inputting firewalls, IDS, IPS systems in there, access control lists, other security groups, host-based firewalls, we can lock ourselves down and break things. Networking stuff, server stuff, containers and container orchestration, security protocols, for example. Now, a lot of what we need to do is sometimes parse through logs and things like that. So you should be pretty good at writing a script, a Python script or a Bash shell script that can collect information and maybe give you some information. You should get good at the use of protocol analyzers like a packet sniffer so you can kind of see what's going on. You should get used to reading things like Cisco would have at NetFlow for the last 20 years, which enable you to see traffic flows and what would be accepted or rejected by an access list. But on the cloud, guess what? They have basically 1999 version of NetFlow. For example, Cisco or AWS's basic NetFlow, they call it flow logs, but it's like Cisco NetFlow 20 years ago, where you can look through traffics and things like that. So there's there. And now AWS even lets you do it through transit gateway. So it's getting much closer to the 2000 area networking, but you need to be able to understand that. Now, what are the systems you're going to be working on? Windows and Linux systems. So you're going to have to have a good understanding of the operating systems. Now you want to know the real secret? The secret where you go from associate to cloud to support engineer to senior engineer and leaving those roles and getting into better, bigger, and higher paying roles. It's your communication skills. In fact, the better your communication skills, the better your leadership skills, the better your sales skills and executive presence, instantly you can add another $100,000 a year to your career because you get seen as bigger. Well, look at the difference. Hi, I'm Mike. Yes, I can help you with your problem. Versus, I'm Mike. Could you tell me what's going on so I can help you? See, one's strong and what gets perceived as much more and one gets paid much more and one gets promoted much more. So focus on those soft skills. Focus on the most critical soft skill, empathy. Build your attitude, your energy, your enthusiasm and passion. When everybody else is not working hard, you work harder. You be a better team player and you go above and beyond for your customers. And poof, you're promoted. It's not really that easy. So better skills, better attitude, better enthusiasm, better communication capabilities, and poof, they take your career from doing this kind of stuff to a rocket ship. Please understand, support is very limited in your career and how far you can go because of the support brand. So great career. If you love working and troubleshooting customer problems, I've got friends that have been doing support forever and they love it. They love it, love it, love it. But that's the path, Jason Lopez. Do those things and tell us when you're cloud promoted, and you'll be cloud promoted pretty easily. Great question, Jason Lopez. Thank you for your question. If you've got subsequent questions, I'd be honored to answer them for you. My best self, good morning. I like that name. You work as an accountant. What skills do you need to work as a cloud architect? Okay, so my best self, I used to practice internal medicine. I'm very good at helping people transition careers. Now, there are certain skills you would have as an accountant that are very good. Now, I don't know what kind of accountant you are. I don't know if you're a tax accountant, which will give you some things, or if you're an accountant that does quarterly reporting for organizations, because there's lots of different accountants. But some things that accounting brings you is attention to detail. No matter what is an accountant, there's attention to detail. I haven't met many accountants that don't know how to read a balance sheet or a financial statement, and that is some of the business acumen you need. That will be really good. You may know how to build a business case or an ROI model. Now, that's more finance than accounting, but you may know how to do that from your education in the past, which is really, really, really great. For example, kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So I like that. Now, depending upon the accounting you've done, you may have had to sell accounting services to someone. And if you had, that's going to build your sales skills. So what do you typically need as an accountant that you typically don't have? Well, accountants typically are not front and center on camera, TVs, presenting at conferences all the time. Some can, but most are not. And you will need that skill. So let's go through the list of things that you'll typically need from a typical accountant that I know. And I love a lot of accountants, and I respect a lot of them, and I speak to a lot of accountants. So as an accountant, you'll have some of the business acumen you need, which is great. You'll need to develop something called CXO relevancy, unless you're the kind of accountant that's working and doing quarterly reports for the biggest Fortune 100 companies in the world. If not, you're going to have to develop CXO relevancy. How do you communicate to that CEO, CFO, CIO, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So there's that. Now, next, you're going to need leadership skills, because you are literally going to be building teams of 50 to 100 engineers, and they're going to have to make them work for you. So you're going to need really good leadership skills. Now, you're going to need executive communication skills, because you're going to be presenting to executives, and they won't take you seriously if you don't. Executive writing skills, which is kind of the exact opposite we're taught of in an MBA program. In our MBA programs, we're taught to basically write a 40-page paper. Here, take the 40 pages of content into a 2-page paper. I'm going to go over the business first and then the technical. Now, you're going to need executive presence. The majority of accountants are not used to commanding a room. The majority of the accountants that I know are wonderful but soft-spoken people. Here, you're going to need to build some passion, build some executive presence so people can feel you when you walk in the room. Now, you're going to have to sell. And we sell. We have to sell customers to buy our stuff. We have to sell internal resources to want to work for us. Now, you also will need good negotiation skills, because you'll be negotiating $1 billion plus deals. It's just part of the life. So you're going to need some training there. Now, on the technical side, you need to know the cloud first before you can worry about anybody else's stuff. So to know the cloud, you have to learn what the cloud really is. And it's not like what they teach in an AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. That's cloud admin work. That's not architect work. Architects design the solution, present the solution, and sell the solution. And you can't design, present, and sell what you don't understand. And you can't migrate to the cloud what you don't understand. And you can't work with 2 or more clouds and private clouds and public clouds if you don't understand the cloud. So you need more than certification. What do you need? A good knowledge of the cloud, which is the network and the data center, because the cloud is somebody else's network and a data center. And what do we cloud architects do? We move the stuff from the network and the data center to the cloud, which is a virtual network and a data center. So this means you need to learn BGP and depth, IP addressing, subnetting, and supernetting in depth. You need to understand WAN technologies and which one should you design into your architecture. And that could be a VPN, whether it's an IPsec VPN or an SSL-based VPN. It could be a private line. It could be an Ethernet over MPLS kind of private line. It could be software-defined networking, and it could be SASE. Now, you need to know switching and switching concepts, which are including VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, port channel, ether channel, link aggregation groups, kind of things like that. That stuff's going to be there and be stuff that's very critical that you need to know. So there's that. So when you go beyond that, we're going to be dealing with NAT, one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, static NAT, dynamic NAT, PAT, DNS, DHCP, ARP, proxy ARP. Now that's what you need to know from the networking side at minimum. Some interior gateway protocol knowledge like OSPF would additionally be good, but if possible, you can get away without it. Now, in the cloud and data center side, what do you need? You need to understand servers and server virtualization and container orchestration and storage area networks, block storage, file storage, object storage. And I don't mean the silly nonsense that's in the Certified Solution Architect Professional. I mean hundreds of pages of reading in each one of these things, because you can't architect what you don't understand, the inner working, because architect's about design. So for us, it's about how the technology works and why do you use the technology as opposed to touching it and configure it. Architects don't design the technology. And then you need to understand load balancers, network load balancers, application load balancers, reverse proxies, and when to use which and how to architect them all together. Same thing with databases. You can't just know the stuff that's in a certification because it's proprietary databases. You need to know about relational databases, what you can use on 3 clouds, how do you scale them, how do you tune them, how do you make them high availability. Same thing for NoSQL databases. And you can't just use a proprietary NoSQL database. In most cases, you need to use something that'll work on multi-clouds. So there's that. Now, next generation firewalls, because you're not going to use the cloud native security. It's not strong enough. VPN concentrators, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems. And then you need to know the business applications that can transform a business, like a CRM application or unified communications applications, for example. Those kind of things are all critical. And there's supply chain applications, all those things, and anything that you can use to tune the business. And then you need to know how to improve business performance with technology, because architects are architects. We're business executives. In most cases, we're director level or VP level people. And we get paid that way too. But because of that, how do we use the tech to transform the business? How do we put the pieces and parts of the tech together so we get some synergy out of it? Where it's not just the tech we're buying, we get greater business value. Those are the skills of the cloud architect. And we get people hired every day with our cloud architect career development program by teaching those skills. But this is not a career where you get certified. This is a big shift. You can do it. So this year, I had someone that was selling shoes become his first cloud architect. I had someone that was working as a waiter become a cloud architect. I had someone that was selling landscaping gear become a cloud architect. I had a mental health tech become a cloud architect. I've had lots and lots of people from non-tech backgrounds, college students getting hired as cloud architects, as well as people working in tech, as well as lots of business people, whether it be accounting, law, those kind of things. We help work with them all the time, but those are the skills you need. And to get you hired. Giovanni, Mike, hi Mike, appreciate what you do. Recently, there's been a lot of changes at my job, and we're being urged to get more certification. You're currently working in a data center. What's my take on this? Well, my take on this is as follows. If you work for a company that's making you do certifications, and they're paying you to do them, do them. Now, what happens is when you want to apply for the job of your dreams, you're going to have to remove some of those certifications. And the reason you'll have to remove some of those certifications is if you want to be an architect, for example, and you have 15 certifications, it becomes very clear that you don't know anything other than certifications. And employers don't want certification junkies. Now, there's a great misnomer out there. When I ask engineers, they're like, my manager wants this. Well, generally speaking, if your manager wants you to have something, they'll tell you. And in most cases, they don't. Now, Giovanni, I had a manager that told me I had to become a CISSP. And he said, Mike, I want CISSPs, and all 5,000 of the engineers are going to become one. I want you to do it too. And I said, fine. You don't see it on my resume anymore, do you? So I'd say if you have to do it, do it. But don't count certifications as training. Don't count it as professional development. And it's pretty easy to pass any certification. You can pass them all and not know anything. So when it comes to a certification that you're being forced to do, just do it. If you're getting paid to do it and it's going to make your hiring manager happy, do it. If my hiring manager said, shovel the snow, I didn't have the injuries I have, I would shovel the snow. But if my hiring manager said shovel the snow, I'd pay somebody else to shovel the snow. So, what's a good employee? Someone that follows the path. Someone that follows orders, like a soldier, like a warrior. So if they want you to do it, just do it. Don't think it's going to help you with your career, but go do it because it's your job. The reality is, it's a lot easier to relax and take a certification boot course where you go on site for 3 days. Who knows, you could potentially learn something along the way. And when you're done that, guess what? You'll be good to go. So don't focus on it. And you remember, you don't have to put certifications on your resume. So Giovanni, I get a lot of people that came to me and they followed this horrible advice. There's a bunch of certification providers telling people, hey, before you should get the Certified Solution Architect Associate, the Cloud Practitioner, the DevOps Associate, the SysOps Associate, the Cloud Developer, and then if you're ready, you can take a professional exam, which you could do in a couple of weeks anyway with no knowledge. And that's bad advice, and here's the reason why. They're across multiple different careers. And when you get things that are across multiple different careers, it makes you look like a jack of all trades and a master of none. And when you learn people's jobs from 5 different careers, guess what you're not learning? Your career, which means the smart competition is learning their career, and the horrible people are the people that are really trying to work hard are following the horrible advice given to them by the certification providers of learning everybody else's career. And why do I hate this? Because I interview them all the time, and none of them know anything. And I have to make them forget all they learned and focus on their career, and then we can get them hired. So my take on this is if it's your manager, but if you have to do something for the data center, get big certs, not little certs. Get professional certifications. Get expert certifications. There was a CCIE data center that was out there. That's a valuable certification for data center and cloud people. So try not to waste your time on minimal stuff. Look, I had an employer that said, Mike, I really would prefer you become a Cisco certified internet expert. And I said, okay. 6 months later, I was one. Now, I will tell you, Giovanni, that Cisco certified internet expert that I did 20 some years ago was the best introductory level networking course I've ever taken. And yes, I said introductory level for the CCI, and here's why. When I passed that, I felt like so here's why I call it introductory. When you have an associate certification like the CCNA, which is what I started with, I thought I knew networking because I didn't know what I didn't know. And then when I had the Cisco Certified Network Professional, I went, wow, networking's big and there's a lot that I don't know. And then when I took that CCI, I went, okay, oh my God, there's so many things that I don't know. I'm going to have to spend the next 25 years learning them. And that's what I did. So the CCIE for me was the introductory level course. After the CCIE is when I started to learn. My fundamentals at that point were strong enough that I got to be put on big projects. That's where the learning began. I'd collaborate with other engineers and architects across the world. That's where the learning began. So if you're forced to do something like that, get a strong professional or expert level certification and use that to build your career and build your competency. And when you do that, don't just do the silly certification training the way it's being taught, because that's not going to be good enough for you. Learn it. So for example, if you're doing something on load balancers, learning about load balancers, truly learn load balancers. Don't follow just the certification thing. Go to the FI website and read their white papers and read their documentation. Read, and truly learn it. So like Giovanni, for example, when I went to my MBA program, I did my MBA. Yeah, here's your macroeconomics book in an MBA program. You think this is enough to learn macroeconomics? Of course it's not. So I bought every macroeconomics textbook that I could find from the various textbook providers. And I would listen to an audiobook, 3 audiobooks per week, in addition to reading, 10 times more than I was supposed to. By the end of that course, I knew macroeconomics. So if you have to do it because they're wanting, just do it better and become the best you can possibly be. You want to become a cloud architect. What should you do? Well, the best, fastest, and cheapest way to become a cloud architect is to follow my Cloud Architect Career Development Program. Especially, it's even on sale now. It takes about 8 months for me to get someone to become a cloud architect. So I'll tell you what you should do. Ideally, is take our course. But if you're on your own, I'm going to tell you what you need to do. You must learn the network and the data center, because if you know the cloud, kind of like learning to drive a car. Now, if you just did certifications, guess what? Nobody cares as an architect, and here's the reason why. A certification is the name of a proprietary service, which in many cases you can't use, and how to configure that service. But guess what? Cloud architects don't touch the technology. They don't configure it. So it's completely worthless. The best I can describe as an architect, imagine someone who's going to design a hotel. So let's say the architect is designing a hotel for Florida, and it needs to be 100 meters tall. They have to deal with hurricanes, right? So the architect needs to think about what kind of building materials will make the hotel strong enough to withstand the hurricanes. We get tornadoes here in Florida too, right? So the architect would need to focus on that. Now, we might say, hey, we're in Florida. People come here on vacation. We need a golf course in the hotel, a waterfall in the hotel, and 3 5-star restaurants in the hotel. Okay. So the architect would be planning the design of that. And they need to learn design principles. Same thing with cloud architects. Now, imagine you decided instead of training the architect on design, you gave the architect a hammer, a nail gun, and a screwdriver and said, here's how to build stuff. Well, training somebody to build stuff as a construction worker, unfortunately, doesn't teach them how to design a tall hotel. Well, certification training is teaching you how to use the hammer, how to build the stuff, not how to design it. So certification training for architects is a little better than worthless. But what do you need? You need the executive training skills, and I'll tell you how to get them if you're with us or without us, and you need those network and data center and cloud skills. So here's what we do, and I'd love you to see my free webinar tomorrow on how to become a cloud architect. Somebody pop the link to that in the chat box. But what are we talking about here? On the technology side, we're talking about BGP, some interior gateway protocol knowledge such as OSPF, IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, route aggregation. Those things are critical. We're talking about WAN technologies, whether they be SSL-based VPNs, IPsec-based VPNs, private lines, Ethernet over MPLS, software-defined networking, and SASE, and what, when, and why to use these things, and how to plan them and building a high availability system. We're talking about switching, which is VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, link aggregation groups kind of concept. We're talking about learning NAT, and it's not just going to the internet like in a certification. We're talking one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, static NAT, dynamic NAT, and PAN. We're talking about DNS, DHCP, ARP, proxy, ARP, and all those critical networking protocols. That right there is about 15,000 pages of reading, or you could take my course, but you know that is an easy 15,000 pages of reading. Now, next, you need to understand servers and server virtualization and containers and container orchestration. You could learn from us, or you could read about 1,000 pages from VMware and OpenStack and Kubernetes to learn those things. I don't care. I just want you getting cloud hired. Then the same thing for block storage, object storage, file storage. We teach it in our program. If you're not in our program, again, 500 pages on each one from Dell, EMC, IBM. You're going to understand these storage area networks. Load balancers, same thing. Reverse proxies, same things. And if you're not in our course, go to F5 and read hundreds of pages to learn how they work. So you know how to tune them, because those are really what we're going to be dealing with. Databases, you must learn databases, the key relational databases, and when to use them and how to architect them, how to make them scale, how to make them high availability, those kinds of things. Same thing for NoSQL databases. Now you must learn which business applications improve which business system performance. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. You must understand security stuff, not the stuff that's taught in an AWS Advanced Security. It's not enough. You need real security. Next generation firewalls, IDS, IPS systems, VPN concentrators, remote access, and all that kind of stuff. So there's that. Now, those are the tech skills which you can learn. Now, I've covered about 25 to 30,000 pages of reading for that, or you could take our course. Now, the business piece. An architect is an executive. That's right. They are an executive. They design and present and sell. Now, when you're selling, you're going to be selling billion-dollar solutions. I have. And closing billion-dollar deals requires a lot of executive presence, CXO relevancy, communication skills, leadership skills, management skills. You're going to be building teams of 50 people, for example, to deploy something. So if you're in our course, you're going to get it all. If you're not with us, do the following. Get an MBA to learn, those financial metrics, building business cases, managing projects. If you're in our group, we'll teach it to you. Now, what won't be taught in that MBA? CXO relevancy. So, I took probably $15,000 worth of courses in CXO relevancy, and I strongly recommend it. Soft skills. Ooh, this is a job where it's all soft skills. So if you're not with us, take some courses in emotional intelligence, empathy training, and soft skills. I probably took $25,000 worth of them, and it paid for itself because you need it. That's why I teach this course for less than $1,000, because I know most people can't afford these things. Now, presentation skills. You're going to have to learn how to present to executives, present to technology professionals, to present to management, to present at conferences with thousands of people in the room. So if you're not with us, take some presentation skills training. and make sure you take some executive presence training. I've had more coaching than you can imagine on this. Thousands upon thousands and thousands of dollars of courses on executive presence development. Make sure you get some, or take our course. So that's what you should do. I've given you the list of things. Look, I don't need to work, and that's the reason I take a course which could easily cost more than $50,000 and make it basically a single day's pay for our average graduate. It's my retirement. I'm having a ball. Almost every single day I get somebody hired, and so it's the best part of my life, other than my wife, my cat Cindy, who's beautiful as well. When I get a cloud hired almost every day, it makes me party. So for that, I feel good about it. But those are the skills, and you know how to learn from either us or someone else. But just don't think you can do it via certifications. And don't mistake the business piece. For example, I'll read to you something that one of my graduates just sent to me just the other day. He's a really great guy. I hear this almost every single day. And I asked him how his role was. How are you? Having fun? And here's what he says. Hey, Mike, thanks for reaching out. It's an incredible role. I always think back to you saying there's a lot of time spent with C-level executives, and our job is to partner with them as peers, not subordinates. That's incredibly true. Honestly, the technology is only 20% of the role. The other 80% is all about empathy and soft skills. So that's what I've done for 25 years. We don't code, we don't configure, we don't touch the tech. But soft skills, business skills, leadership skills, that's the job. So take ours, take an MBA plus those courses, but get those skills, Jim, because I want you to have a great cloud architect career. And it's the best job I've ever had. It's an incredible role. 25%. I mean, it's a role where you're going to nice lunches, dinners, drinks, traveling, playing golf. We don't touch the tech, but we've got to entertain clients. We've got to build relationships, and we've got to sell. And I love it. Ever since I left engineering 25 years ago, being an architect was the best thing I've ever done. I haven't looked back. I've loved it. I like my engineering days, but I love my architect days. Habib Ahmed. Hello, sir. I'm a recent graduate of mechanical engineering, and I changed my career to software development. Now you want to be a cloud architect. Can you start training with you from Italy? Of course you can train with us from Italy. We have students in every country of the world. I've got students in Africa, Europe, Canada, South America, the Middle East, India, Pakistan, Singapore, Hong Kong, Australia, New Zealand. We've got students all over the place, and they're getting hired. Just yesterday, I was literally filling out a form, a job, a job reference because somebody's being hired in Tunisia. So it's every day from all over the world. Yes, you can take your things from Italy. Italy is a great place. Personally, I'm from Greece, and I work from Greece all the time. My family's home in Greece. I haven't been there in a couple of years because of an injury which precludes me from traveling right now. But yes, of course you can take it from Italy. I've got students in all over Europe. Students, whether they be in Belgium, England, France, Germany, Denmark, they are all over. And I'm just mentioning some of them. But yes, you can take it from Italy. Love it over there in Italy. I have other students in Italy. Have been there in a couple of years, but let me tell you, love it over there. Great olive oil. Almost as good as the Greek olive oil. I'm Greek, so we have to say we have better olive oil, but love it over there. We'd love to work with you, Habib. And I think you'll do really well as long as you do the work. Lady Godiva, good morning, everyone, and it's so wonderful to see you today. If you got questions, ask them in the chat box. How can you become the best cloud architect? Well, assuming you have the technical competency, that's the key. So I want you to think about it this way. Somebody asked me yesterday that they didn't understand why focusing on engineering wasn't going to make them a better architect. And here's what I want to remind you of. What does an architect do? That's the whole point of the architect. It's digital transformation. What does that mean? How do you make your customer's business, improve your customer's business performance with technology? So that's the goal of the architect. So how do you become the best? You improve your digital transformation ability. So there's basically 3 ways you can do it. One way, which I did in my youth, which I don't recommend, is becoming a subject matter expert on a type of technology. So my background, my specialty is networking. So if I was a cloud network architect, which I could easily do and have done many days, That's one way to be a better architect. Now, what's the problem with that? The problem with that is tech tops out at a certain salary. Once you get to a $200,000 mark or so, being more technical is not advantageous because it's not going to improve your salary that much more. So don't focus on the tech, but that's an option. But if you love the network or something, that's okay. What is the next best place what you could do? Learn an industry. For example, I used to practice internal medicine. I'm a nurse practitioner. Before that, I was a nurse. Before that, I was a paramedic. So I know healthcare real well, okay? So when I was at Cisco, they said, we want to focus on healthcare. And they built the architecture team, which I led the healthcare architect team. And why? I was a great architect. I'd been an architect before, and I knew healthcare. I knew the workflows that healthcare had. I knew the challenges that healthcare had. I knew the inefficiencies that healthcare had, and I knew how to make them better. So that took my career off like a rocket ship, because now I'm focusing on digital transformation for an industry of which I've got industry expertise. Wow. Hugely helpful. And when I had that role, and I wanted to do better, what did I do? Well, remember, the main point of the architect is to transform business. We're not thinking about the tech like the engineers. We're thinking about the business, right? So how did I do? What did I do? Well, I took courses in executive presence. I took courses in leadership. I had an MBA before that, but more. It's not enough. I took much more soft skills training. I studied behavioral science. I read hundreds of books, hundreds, probably 1,000, on economics, sociology, psychology, neurolinguistic programming, reading body language, and all the human-oriented soft skills. Why? So I could learn how to read my room, communicate more effectively to them, and convince them they to do things that would build their career. So there was that. Now, next, you're going to be leading teams of 50 plus people. So bolster up on your leadership skills. Take some leadership skills training. I mean, I put it all in our training program, but you got to be good on these things. These are the roles. What separates a $500,000 architect from a $110,000 architect? Leadership skills, sales skills, executive presence, communication skills, lots of business acumen. Can you get on stage in front of 5,000 people? Are you comfortable being on TV? Are you comfortable being in magazines? As an architect, I'm in magazines a couple times per week because the media wants to talk to me. Something goes on with the environment, I'm in Investors Business Daily talking about economics and finance. It's just there. I was in International Business Times a week ago. Why? Because as you're an architect, you're going to be that business executive. And when you are that business executive and the world comes to you, you can do anything AWS ESOM. So keep that in the back of your mind. Focus on your ability to improve an organization's profitability. That means business acumen. Focus on convincing your customer to do that. Now, I don't want you to think it's sleazy when I talk about convincing your customer. I used to practice medicine. I had to convince my patients to take the medicine so they wouldn't die. So the greater your sales skills, the greater your business skills, the better impact you can have on your customers. So those are how you become the best. Focus on improving your customer's business because that's the job of the architect. You get that, the world will be coming after you like crazy because they're all going to want you. Up and Up Cloud Hired. It's so good to see it. And I love that balloon in the background. That's the perfect up and up graphic. Habib Cloud Architect, yes, I think it's the best job in the world. Henry Io, who's over there in Cyprus, my neighbor, because I'm from Greece. It's good to see you this morning, and let's get you Cloud Hired, Henry. Lady Godiva, Cloud Hired, fantastic. Boz, Cloud Hired, it's good to see you today. Peter Pum, what is necessary to transition from Uber driver to cloud architect? Training, and more training. And I've gotten Uber drivers cloud architect positions. And they need to learn the network and the data center and the business and sales skills. So, in case you weren't here, I know Kevin, sometimes people aren't here, I'll do it again. The cheapest and easiest and fastest way for you to do this, Peter, is to take our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, because it's got about 500 hours of the critical training you need. And in the course, you will learn how to be an architect, and you will design architectures, present them, and sell them just like the real job. But if you're not in our course, and if you're not in our course, you need to learn the network and the data center first, and then learn the cloud, and then learn the business skills, leadership skills, and sales skills. Now, I know it would take most people a fortune to do this, and that's why I've created a program for less than $1,000 to teach it. And that's why my students are getting hired every day. But if you're not with us, I want you getting hired. Learn BGP, learn some OSPF, learn WAN protocols, when to use an IPsec tunnel, when to use an SSL tunnel, when to use a private line, when to use Ethernet MPLS, when to use software-defined networking, and when to use SASE. Learn about switching, VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, port channel, Ether channel, link aggregation groups, spanning tree, and rapid spanning tree. They're going to be critical skills. NAT, one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, static NAT, dynamic NAT, PAT, and when and where to use and when to do these things, and when to make sure the team puts them into your network. There's going to be that. Now, our proxy ARP, DNS, DHCP, these are all really, really critical skills. Next, in the data center, you need to understand servers and server virtualization, and containers and container orchestration, storage area networks such as block storage, file storage, object storage. Then you need to understand databases, relational databases, NoSQL databases, how they impact the business. Then you're going to need to learn business applications, CRM applications, ERP systems, unified communication systems, messaging systems, whatever. How do you improve business performance? Load balancers, network load balancers, application load balancers, stacking and combining the load balancers, reverse proxies, those kind of things. API gateways, you're going to have to understand those things. Then you're going to need to understand security and not the stuff that's in certification. We're talking about next generation firewalls, VPN concentrators, IDS, IPS systems, SIEM, data loss prevention, and all of those other things. You're going to have to understand authentication systems such as Active Directory, and you're going to have to understand the cloud. Ideally, if you're one of my students, you will build a cloud from scratch because you need to know the cloud. Now, next, what we're talking about is this following. We're talking about the ability to design these solutions, which means architecture training, which is different than just learning the piece. You need to learn how to assemble the pieces together. Presentation skills training, and sales training. Now, because you're going to be going from doing one thing, which is a great, honorable, responsible, respectable job, to something else where you're going to be dealing with the CEO of multi-trillion-dollar and billion-dollar companies, you're going to have to build a strong level of business acumen. We could teach it, or you can get an MBA, one of the two. I don't care. We could teach it, and our students get to find it, but you need that business acumen. You need executive presence. Here's the difference. Hi, my name is Bike. PGP is a path vector routing protocol that uses TCP port 179. I do that in front of an executive. I'll be escorted out of the room by security, and my replacement will thank me for the great new job. BGP is a path vector routing protocol that uses TCP port 179 for network layer reachability. So you got to make it clear. Now, you're going to have to build a business case. You're going to have to look at the expected value of the opportunity and show that the expected value of the return on investment is greater than its cost. Otherwise, the company wouldn't buy it. Think about it this way. You got $1,000 to spend. You can spend it on a TV, or you can spend it on education. Which is going to give you the greater return on investment? Education, but you got to pick that, because you can only spend your money on place, and so can a business. It's called opportunity cost. Now, you'll be presenting at conferences. So you're going to learn how to present. You're going to be presenting to CEOs. You're going to have to learn how to present to executives. You're going to be presenting to techies, and you're going to have to learn how to present to techies and manage those techies as well. Because while they don't say yes, the executives say yes, the techies can say no, and you got to keep that and protect them. Keep that in the back of your mind. So you're going to need executive writing and things. Now, we teach them in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, or you can learn them through an MBA. What I've described now is about 50,000 pages of reading, 25,000 tech, 25,000 business to get to your goals. Or you can take our simple Cloud Architect Career Development Program, do the work and assignment, and about 8 to 12 months later, you'll be cloud hired, like most of our students, assuming you do the work. So any way you want to do that, any way you want to get there, it makes me happy. I'd love to train you, but I don't care. I just went to getting hired. That's the only reason I do this 3 times per week, but those are the skills you need to understand. Understand the architect is an executive position, and it's a very highly paid position. So with that, you need to have those skills. You get those skills, the world will come after you. And you'll have a great career, and I promise you'll love it. I promise you'll love it. I've done a lot of jobs, and that was by far the most fun one I've ever had. Chris or Chow, we can go to the next one. You're an international student in Italy. Can you get hired in the USA remotely? Lots of people get hired in the USA remotely. I turned down a position in Japan from the US remotely. But in many cases, if you're in Europe, they'll hire you somebody in Europe. And they'll give you a decent salary because you'll be working for a global organization. But yes, some people get brought to America on visas, and some people can work in Europe. The cloud exists everywhere. It's not just in some places. I lived in the US. 20 years ago, I was setting up voice data and video in Dubai. I was doing work in Australia. I was doing work in Europe. We were doing work in South Africa, all from the US. So, I mean, there is no such thing as, a cloud architect that's not going to be dealing with stuff over long distances. So it really doesn't matter where you're at. It matters, do you have the skills of you? I don't know whether you'd be hired in the US. I don't know whether you'd be hired in the UK. I don't know whether you can get hired in Italy or Greece. It doesn't matter. You'll get hired if you have the right skills. And it really doesn't matter where you're working. But yes, I've worked from my home in Greece working for a US company for a long time. I've been remote since 2000. Well, I was remote in 2001 when I worked for a company called Riverstone Networks, which is now Nokia. I was a principal architect and I was working remotely then. There was a time where I joined Cisco in 2003 for about 6 months where I worked mostly out of the New York office. And then I transferred and I worked remotely for the rest of my career. So remote work is not new for architects. Architects need to be with people all over the world all the time, hence all the cross-cultural knowledge is necessary and the communication skills are necessary. Doesn't matter where you're at. As long as you have access to an airport for when you need to travel and you're relatively close. Being in Italy, well, it's easy for you to get hired. There's all of continental Europe to work in. There's the UK. Hey, wait, Italy is pretty close to Africa too. It's also pretty close to Dubai. It's close to Israel. It's close to Jordan, who spends a lot of money on technology. It's close to Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, all these places that have a lot of money and buy a lot of technology. It's very close. That's why they call it EMEA, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. It's typically one region for most businesses. Isaac, recently you obtained the cloud practitioner. What entry-level position can you get? Isaac, I'm going to say this very clearly. A certification is just a certification, and by itself isn't enough to do anything. So the question I have is, what about you? What are your skills? Most of the cloud practitioners work in sales. It's really a certification for sales reps. So do you have good sales skills? Do you have good executive presence? Do you have good leadership skills? Do you have good levels of emotional intelligence? Do you have good levels of business acumen? Do you know how to build a business case? Maybe you could be a cloud sales rep. Now, Isaac, I've gotten lots of people hired with no cloud certifications whatsoever. For example, Del Rabat he turned down 2 of the 3 cloud security architect offices he had, and he has no cloud certifications. But Isaac Webb, the key is the certification is the name of a service and how to configure that service. So that could be useful for a cloud admin role. Could be. But remember that what we're really dealing with is, per se, what are your skills? So Isaac, why don't you do this? Why don't you tell me what your skills are, and then I can tell you what you can do, because the certification by itself is just a certification. Now, I know cloud practitioners that can be cloud architects. I know cloud practitioners that are good cloud engineers. I know cloud practitioners that are good sales reps. But just telling me you have something like an AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, in my mind, is not enough for any job. It's the skills that you have. It's your attitude, your energy, your enthusiasm, your passion. Your capabilities. So what are your capabilities, Isaac? And I'll tell you exactly what to do with it. Because it's not about your certification, it's about it's about your capabilities. Now, if you tell me this, Mike, these are my goals, what do I need to learn? I can tell you that. But a certification is just a piece of paper. And unfortunately, a piece of paper by itself is not enough. But Isaac, I bet there's something special in you. Tell me what those special things are in you. Tell me what those things are you know. What is your experience, your guidance, your ideas? What do you love? I'll tell you how to get hired with it. But just remember, certifications don't equate to getting hired. Skills equate to getting hired. What do employers want, Isaac? They don't want certifications. I've asked 6,000 of them. What do they want? I'm going to tell you right now. They want to know, can you do the job? So what is the job you want, Isaac? And I'll tell you what you need to learn. They want to know if they can trust you. So be good, be honest, and have some good integrity. They want to know that you know what you know and know what you don't know, so you don't make big mistakes. Like the Google Cloud, which was taken down by one person that didn't understand how to configure BGP properly. Or Facebook, somebody made a BGP misconfiguration and took Facebook down for like a day. So there's that. They want to know if you're energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate about the work. And I bet you are. They want to know whether you raise the energy in the room. There's some people on my team like Chow. She walks in, she smiles. We all feel great. She's an incredible cloud architect. But just the fact that she raises the energy of the room makes her an incredible asset to any employer as a cloud architect. Just that happiness is something that's there. It makes us all feel better and all want to work harder just because they have great attitudes. So if I use that as an example, we want to know whether you're willing to go above and beyond. And guess what? We want to know if you're a team player. So those are what monitors want. So now tell me what you would like to do, and I'll help you get there. Because that's not the certification that determines what job you want. It's you that determines what job you want. And then you fill in the knowledge that you need to get there. And then we can use a certification to get you an interview, because certifications may help you get an interview, but they won't help you get hired. It's the knowledge that gets you hired. So what do you want to do? I want to get you there. And I think Isaac actually provided some subsequent information. So let's see his subsequent information in the chat box so I can guide him from there. Telecommunications industry for 7 years, customer-facing configuration, adaptability, good, very much a people person. Cloud engineer, then cloud architect is your goal. Isaac, my recommendation is this. If you want to be a cloud architect, study to be a cloud architect and not a cloud engineer. They're very different skills. The skills of a cloud engineer do not make you a better architect. They make you a worse architect. The skills of a cloud architect make you a bad cloud engineer. So I'd suggest you pick your career. And here's why. The skills for the architect and the skills for the engineers are different. I'm going to tell you what they both are. We'll start with a cloud engineer. If you want to be a cloud engineer, your focus is going to be building and deploying the technology. I love the telecommunications background because that means networking. That means you probably understand some OSPF. You may understand some BGP. You understand WAN technologies. You understand IP technology. So that's good. That's half of it. Now for the cloud engineer, you're still going to need to learn the data center, which means servers and server virtualization, containers and container orchestration, block storage, file storage, object storage. Database management and configuration for the cloud engineer. Load balancers, network load balancers, application load balancers, reverse proxies for the cloud engineer, some firewall stuff for the cloud engineer. Now, if you want to be a cloud engineer, you're going to need to master Linux at the level of a cloud engineer. Of a Linux engineer. You're going to need that knowledge. You're going to have to know how to set up Linux systems, administer Linux systems, lock them down by shutting off services that are not there. Now, if you want to be a cloud engineer, you're going to need to learn Bash scripting, for example, Python scripting as some coding, and infrastructure as code. That's going to be the things that you need to learn. With your skills, you'll be there. And with a cloud practitioner, you can do that if you have those other skills. Now, if you want to be a cloud architect, Linux knowledge isn't going to help you. Python knowledge is not going to help you. Terraform knowledge is not going to help you. And configuration is not going to help you. Which is why I say, if you want to be a cloud architect, go be a cloud architect. Ivan Tamba, wonderful guy from Cameroon. Guess what? Came to America, was serving food, and I got him his first cloud architect job. Coyote, I think he's also Cameroonian, got his first cloud architect job. Jennifer, she got her first cloud architect job, and his last job was mental health. I have another student who was selling landscaping equipment, and her first job was a cloud architect. Oh, wow. I had a geologist, Jeffrey, who's now working as a cloud architect. I could go on and go on and go on. Because if you train to be an engineer, your focus is going to be tech. If you train to be an architect, your focus is going to be in digital transformation. So every minute of your life you spend as an engineer is 1 minute you're not becoming an architect. 1 minute your thinking is focused on something else versus that. Now, if you want to be an architect by comparison, cloud practitioner, you've got it. Okay, but now you've got to learn the same data center stuff as before. But now you've got to focus on your executive presence, your communication skills, your sales skills, your business acumen, your ROI modeling, your emotional intelligence, your empathy, and your leadership skills. So the architect doesn't touch the tech, which is why engineering is not advantageous. The architect focuses on the business and how to improve the business. The engineer focuses on the tech. So when people say, I want to be an engineer on the way to being an architect, that's like saying, look, I want to learn how to be an airplane mechanic so I can learn how to be a pilot. Two different careers. It doesn't work. So which career would you truly like, Isaac, long-term? And that's the one you should go for. This is not a job where you learn on the job. It doesn't work that way. It's getting the right skills for the right job. And Isaac, when I've got cloud engineers that want to be architects, you know what I have to do? Completely rebrand them. Remove half of the engineering from their profile and make them show the business value of the things they're created, because it's very hard to go from engineer to architect. It's just as easy to go from not working in tech to architect than it is from engineer to architect. So what's your real goal? Train for the job you want. That's why doctors don't go to school to become nurses before they become doctors. They become doctors because it's different skills. And if somebody becomes a nurse first, that's fine. They have to relearn medicine from scratch and go to medical schools from scratch. There's nothing that's going to carry over. Same thing for paralegals. Becoming lawyers, it's a different job. Train for the job you want, not somebody else's. Every minute you're training for somebody else's job, guess what? You're not learning your job. And if you're not good at your job, guess what? The interview's war. We hired the best person that fits the mold. We find the person with the right brand. And the engineer brand is not an architect brand, it's an engineer's brand. An architect's brand is an executive who knows how to design, present, and sell. An engineer's brand is a hands-on techie that codes and configures all day. People don't want a coder and configurer to help sell $1 billion solution. They want someone that understands business. So determine which career you want. Pop that in and I'll help you get there. But please train for the job you want, not somebody else's. You want to be a cloud engineer? Great job. Cloud architect, great job. But don't think becoming an engineer will help you be an architect, because it won't. Collins. Our course will not only make you a skilled in cloud architecture, it makes the recruiters come to you. How will you feel when your name is on the table of the industry in the world? And Collins is right. Collins is one of my students. He's really great. Collins is kind of so cool. I like to call him James Bond. He's just the cool dude that walks in the room. And Collins has seen all my students getting hired because they have the right skills. Collins knows that my average student gets 15 plus requests every week where somebody wants to interview them. I had a student, his name is Robert Welch, great student. We made a video with him very recently. Just got his first cloud security architect job, big promotion to him. He got 20 interview requests every single day from the branding we did. Because we do so much for our students. I write magazine articles 2 or 3 a week so people come to our students. We do certain things on our students' resumes to build the brand. The recruiters hammer them. The biggest challenge is determining which interviews to accept and which interviews not to accept. Because I get my students published in journals or published in books. My students write books with me. I get my students on my YouTube channel. I do so much stuff for my students, and they have big brands. And for those reasons, our students, whether they have experience or no experience, get hired. But yes, Collins, I'm sure you're getting a lot of recruiters reaching out to you right now. And they see the same thing that I see. Bond, James Bond. And who wouldn't want James Bond as the architect? That cool, calm, and collected attitude. So, Collins, I'm thrilled to see you here. Thank you for your kind feedback. I love working with you. It's an honor and a privilege to work with you. And thank you so much. Elizabeth James, how do you prepare your student for a job interview? Well, Elizabeth James, here's the thing. It's not something you prepare for in one day. So I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of training, and lots of it go interview training. For example, some of the first projects that I have in my class, things like a tell me about yourself video, enable our instructors to see you and enable us to assess your communication skills. And by the way, that's the first interview question in most interviews. So we start about 8 months out preparing for the interviews. In the class, I make the students present to me for an interview. I make them design, present, and sell it. Why? Because the cloud architect interview involves a presentation. They have to be sold. It's not just some other thing. So there's that. So throughout my program, in the live program, my students are getting interviewed for 8 months straight and doing the work for 8 months straight. Then we have special interview training on how to navigate an interview, things that hiring managers want. That's another critical part of our training. We do interview days too. Sometimes we do interview days under stress because nobody's come and relaxed and sleeping on an interview. They're there at the stress. So I teach my students how to interview under stress. I teach emotional intelligence cues, how to control the interview, how to take the interview on your terms, how to guide the hiring manager to interview you on your strengths. Now, Elizabeth James, I've never been on a job interview where I didn't get an offer. Never. And why is this? Well, when I left medicine and went into tech 25 years ago, I started my research then. I had asked 50 recruiters exactly what they thought was in the perfect hiring manager, what's in the perfect employee. I collected a list. I asked friends that own businesses, what do you want in your employees? And that was the beginning of my research 20 years ago. 5 years later, I've asked thousands of hiring managers and thousands of recruiters. I know the questions they ask. I know what they need to hear, and I know what they want. So in my program, I prepare my students to be exactly what the employers desire. It's not just learning how to do an interview. You have to be what they need. A lot of people think they can just prepare for an interview and get hired. No. You got to know what the employer wants. You got to know your strengths, your capabilities, what you can do better than anybody else. You got to learn how to read the interview room. Determine if they're a functional leader, an analytical leader, or a visionary leader. You got to determine by feeling the room, even via Zoom. You got to be able to see, are they auditory, kinesthetic, or visual, and communicate to them in that language. You got to know them ahead of time, know what they need, know what the company needs. You got to find out what that hiring manager needs, position yourself as a solution to what they need. You got to know how to read their body language. You say something like this, stop talking. You see this, keep talking. Look at the feet. You got to verify what's in that room. And I made a video very recently, which you can post on my interview techniques and why I've never been there. But honestly, Elizabeth, it's about preparing my students to be so great. So when they get that interview, they get hired. It's about having the right things on the person's resume to guide the interviewer on the interview based upon the person's strengths. It's about when you're given a question that you don't know the answer to, how to navigate that question and point the hiring manager to the things your strength, mitigating your weaknesses and enhancing your strengths. So it's all about that. It's taken me about 25 years to master the interview tactics that we're talking about and techniques, and also master the training. So it's not really a 2-minute thing that I can answer you. But you can, we'll be doing another interview practice in the next month or so. Follow me on LinkedIn, and I'll give you a practice interview if you'd like. And I'll tell you exactly what you did right or wrong, which you'd like. But, we're talking something that involved me reading at least 800 to 1,000 books on psychology, sociology, economics, body language, neuro-linguistic programming, interviewing, resume writing, advertising, marketing, building brands and positioning people. And it's not something that I can summarize in 10 minutes, but I spent a lifetime working on it. Because that's my craft, helping people get hired or promoted. You got to interview for both as a role. For example, when I worked at Cisco, I joined them as a sales engineer. And then I took a job as an enterprise architect. I had 16 interviews at a company that I already worked on just to get that promotion. And every time I got another promotion, it took 2 vice presidents vying for my promotion as well as 3 other people. So it's always an interview. So Interviews are part of life. It's a critical skill to master, and I teach my students to be masters at them, Elizabeth. Great question, by the way. Chris Johnson, you can't be shy if you want to get that six-figure plus cloud career. No, you can't be shy. Any job that pays you over $100,000, they want you to talk to people. Want to hear a secret? I'm an introvert. Yeah, you heard it right now. I'm an introvert. So it used to be I'd go to a meeting and then we'd have to do this dinner thing. You'd find me hiding in a corner somewhere on my BlackBerry answering emails because I didn't like being with public people. And then I wanted to get ahead in my career. So what did I do? I learned. I went to training. I learned how to calm my nerves. Learned how to get there in public. I gave presentation. Presented at conferences, presented at booths, presented in front of audiences of thousands of people. Guess what? I'm no longer an introvert. I mean, I may still be an introvert, but it doesn't make me uncomfortable. I'm just used to being out there. So don't be shy. You can't be shy. Any career that you're really going to desire is going to teach you and require you to talk to people. Oh, interesting. My best self. If you're an introvert student, do you teach them how to entertain clients? I teach them all the skills they need to so they know how to be comfortable in public. I teach them how to present in public. I teach them how to lead. I teach them how to lead groups. For example, this week we broke our groups in teams. Put them all working together. I made them form their own teams. Gave them projects to do, architects and engineers working together just like the real thing. You know, it was a little stressful for the first 30 minutes, but a little chaotic for the first 30 minutes, just like it always does. And then, wow, you should have seen the things my students were doing. They reached out to me. They said, Mike, this is great. I learned a lot. When you're an introvert, you got to do a few things. One is you need to learn how to manage your stress. I teach many tactics and techniques to manage stress, some which are used by the medical community, some which are used by Navy SEALs. I teach cognitive behavior therapy. I trained under the cognitive behavior therapy greats, David Burns, when I did my clinical rotations at University of Pennsylvania Medical Center, specifically a Presbyterian hospital. He was one of the founders of cognitive behavior therapy, along with Albert Ellis and David Burns and Aaron Beck. So I got to learn there. I'm a 500-hour yoga instructor, and I brought in other yoga instructors to teach meditative breathing, for example. We use box breathing, which is being used by the tactical community, the SEALs, the Marines, law enforcement, firefighter, paramedics, so we teach that. I brought in a coach to teach other meditation techniques, someone that's been teaching for 20 years, someone that trained in India and Thailand. And there isn't that. I have special tactics about how to present, how to relax into things, and I teach people how to build their business acumen, leadership skills. And by the time my introverts are done, you wouldn't know they're introverts, because that's the critical skills. I know how to get people through that challenge because I'm one myself. 20-some years ago, I had to fight past that. Well, it's just second nature for me. Just second nature. Big Jerry, Mike, glad to be back. You've been looking through job descriptions for architects and you see a lot of programming. We've been talking about this for decades. There is no coding and as architects. There's no touching the technology as architects. In fact, you know, here's what's actually going on. And if I can find this thing, if I could figure out how to minimize my screen, okay, here we go. I'll read you what they actually want. So I don't really drink a lot, but when it came down to it, me and my architect buddies always laughed at these solution architect, cloud architect job descriptions. And here's the reason we laughed at it. As architects, we don't touch the technology ever. So I've graduated somewhere between 125 and 150 architects, and they're all working, and they say, Mike, am I ever going to see the technology? And I've said, of course not. They're like, Mike, I take people for dinners and drinks. And the joke that I always ask them is, hey, do you code? And they laugh. They're like, Mike, code? I haven't even seen the cloud or used the management console, and I never will. So here's what happened, Big Jerry. What we're going on is the following. HR wrote job descriptions, which are silly, and here's how and why they look that way. So most of us, even those of us who do hiring, are not experts at job descriptions. So when I need a job description, here's what I do. Terrible. Everybody, other manager I know does the same thing. We go to a job board like Indeed. We look at this thing that's 5 pages long. We're like, yeah, that's comprehensive. And then they're like, but there's no architecture in there. So we add our stuff. Save it, send it off to HR, and they paste it. Or the HR does the same thing. In the end, why does HR post these ridiculous job descriptions? Well, for the following reasons, because there's no coding. And then I'll read to you, but the CIOs are telling you they want to hire directly out of CIO Magazine, which is exactly in line with all the architects I've trained and the architects that I've been. I don't know a single architect that codes. I don't know a single architect that configures. I don't know a single architect that touches the technology, ever. So, but let's look at it this way. HR gets 5,000 applications for a single position. 5,000. Now, HR has no knowledge on how to assess your competency. None, zero, because they're not tech people. So they put up things like 10 Olympic gold medals, 400 years experience, coding, and this language, and this language. And then, Big Jerry, here's what happens. They come to us as hiring managers and we interview them. And they know nothing about architecture. Now, they may know how to code, they may know how to configure, but they don't know architecture, so we don't hire them. It gets so bad that I then call a recruiter. I usually call Christina Marino in New York City from IT Excel. She's the best recruiter I know, but I know lots of great recruiters. I often call Steve Arquillian, he's a VP there, works at IT Excel, and I say, Christina, I need a cloud architect. And she says, what kind of cloud architect? Because she already automatically knows there's different kinds. And I say, I need one that's business oriented with good leadership skills, good sales skills, good executive presence skills. I need someone that's a master of the network and the data center, not just a certification junkie. She calls me 24 hours later and she says, Mike, I got this really great guy for you, Big Jerry 23. And then I interview you directly and I bypass all those HR people that they sent to me that couldn't do the job. Now, it's so bad what these job descriptions were that 3 times per year, my buddies and I would get together 3 to 4 times per year, and we'd drink a Macallan 25. It's a beautiful scotch. I don't drink, but it's a delicious scotch. So we'd all drink a Macallan 25 or 2. Thank you, architects, we could all afford the ridiculous bottle. And we'd look through these job descriptions, we'd sip, and we'd laugh for hours. Some of us smoked cigars too, not me, because I don't smoke, but many people did. Now it got so bad that there was all these ridiculous architecture job descriptions that had zero to do with architecture. So Gartner decided to do something about it. So if you're new to tech, Gartner, you want to know the best cloud and the most innovative cloud, ask Gartner. You want to know the best security appliances, ask Gartner. Best software-defined networking, ask Gartner. Trends and what the best things are to hire, ask Gartner. So Gartner asked the chief information officers, which is our bosses, generally speaking. Not my boss, but because I'm a CEO, the CIO would work for me, but the CIO runs the IT department, which means they hire the VPs of IT, the directors of IT, and the cloud architects. And Gartner said, look, we see all these cloud architect job descriptions, and we know they have nothing to do with cloud architecture at all. What do you want in a cloud architect? We can't have people getting certifications learning programming to be architects. And here's what the CIO said. And it's published in CIO Magazine. Chow from my team just dropped the link in there so you can read the article yourself. They said, what do you want your cloud architect to do? And they said, lead the cultural change for cloud adoption. Develop and coordinate a cloud strategy, and develop a cloud strategy and coordinate the adoption process. So wait, develop and coordinate a cloud architecture, develop a cloud strategy and coordinate the adoption process, and leading the cultural change for cloud adoption. Business stuff, right? And a little tech in there. Next, finding the talent with necessary skills, assessing application software and hardware, creating a cloud broker team, establishing best practices for the cloud across the company, overseeing governance and mitigating risk, working closely with the IT security people to monitor privacy and develop incident response procedures, manage budgets and estimate costs, and operate at scale. Wait, no coding, no configuring, no nothing. So, is it a tech job or is it a business job? Well, I say it's 50% tech, 50% business. My people that get graduated, and by graduate I mean working as architects, because we let people stay in our program for up to a year and this level they're hired. Graduation process is when you're hired, not when you pass the silly certification. So our architects say, Mike, it's 80% business, 20% tech. And I know they're right. And they said, why'd you teach me so much tech? And I said, you passed that interview, right? You had no experience, you passed that interview. And they said, yes, I get your point. But let's go through these. Right paw here, which you're going to see on the left side of the screen. I've been thinking and playing with my cat, so it's a paw. So leading the cultural change. So this is tech, and this is business. Leading the cultural change for cloud adoption, business. Developing, coordinating cloud architecture, that's the tech part of the job. Developing a cloud strategy and coordinating the adoption process, let's call it tech. Finding talent with the necessary skills, business. Assessing application software and hardware, tech. Creating a cloud record team, business. Establishing best practices across the company, business. Overseeing governance and mitigating risk, business. Working with the IT security people to monitor privacy and develop incident response procedures, that's business and legal all the way. Managing budgets and estimate costs, business, and operating scale, business. So we've got 8 business things and 3 tech things. No coding, no configuring, no DevOps, no sysops, none of that. That's not our job as architects. Great question, Carl. Chris, we can go to the next one. How does your program work? Jim, that's a great question. So I want my students getting hard, so we do things a little differently. We have 3 major components to our program. The first program is the live program. We have live classes 3 times per week on Zoom. Why Zoom? Because they're classes. We interact, we talk. We design the architectures together in class. So the students will interview me, just like they would a real client, a real executive. I will give them business requirements. They will translate those business requirements to an architectural design, and they will present it and sell it back to me, just like the real job. I do that 2 out of the 3 classes per week. And one of those 3 classes per week, we teach the business acumen skills, leadership skills, sales skills, executive presence. We practice our interviews. We practice negotiation. We're teaching macroeconomics. We're teaching finance. All those skills necessary to be an architect. We do that until the student's hired. Average student takes 8 months to get hired, but we let you stay in there for up to a year because I want to know that the outcome for you as a student is that you're cloud hired. Now, in between classes, wow, you got work to do. We have hundreds and hundreds of videos, specialty books that we wrote, required reading, and projects. It could be as simple as building your career plan for your goal career, which our team will help you optimize that plan. It'll be video presentations that you need to do so we can bolster your communication skills. There'll be complicated architectures, the kind of architectures that only people with 10 and 15 years experience get to work on. Why? Because I want my students confident so they pass that interview with flying colors. Now our students turn in a project, they do a project, they turn it in, and my team gives them feedback so they get better every day. The last component to our program is the lab module. Now our lab modules are special. They're not like anybody else. So the biggest problem we face with people trying to become architects is they think certification is going to help them. Now, certification teaches the name of a service and how to configure that service. And sure, we teach everybody the level of the Azure Solutions Architect Expert and the AWS Solutions Architect Professional, but we do different labs. We do about 25 labs on AWS. Remember, architects don't touch the tech, but we would say we've done it before. We will do about 25 labs on Azure. That's just no big deal. But then we do the real labs, the labs that get you hired. The labs that show you're energetic, enthusiastic, passionate, more competent than the rest, and willing to go above and beyond the things to get you hired. Our students will come to our data center via VPN. They'll be working with server virtualization with VMware servers. They'll be setting up virtual machines and containers. Our students will set up file servers the hard way, so they learn how to do it for NFS, for Linux and Unix, server message block for Windows. Our students will set up a firewall and play with it, a VPN concentrator, and test it for remote access. Our students will work with Active Directory servers, and our students will build a cloud. And that way, when somebody else says, I took this course and I set up an S3 bucket, and the manager laughs hysterically and says, yeah, so my students say, I built the cloud. And every one of my students knows how to build a cloud because we're dealing with hybrid clouds, hybrid multi-cloud environments, and we also teach these things. So that's basically what we do. And we coach our students to get whatever it takes, help them build their brand, help them optimize their resume, help them optimize their message. We help them get hired. That's what we do. Jim, I'd love to work with you. Wise Planner. Which books do you suggest to read? And with regards to psychological and business behavior, I've read thousands. I've read probably 1,000 of them. So it's not which books to read. It's a constant lifelong journey. If you get coached by me, you're going to get the benefit of all those books. But it's not like I can just give you one book to read. Remember, I used to practice medicine. So I did clinical rotations in psychology. I read hundreds of medical books, and then I read books that were out there. So it's not like I can just give you a reading list of 2 or 3 books that's going to teach you what you need to know. After reading thousands of them, or at least close to 1,000 of them, it's a combination of everything. So it's not which books to read. I mean, I'm looking through some that I've read recently, and I'm trying to think if there's anything that stands out other than the conglomeration. I will tell you one thing. I would definitely recommend you read The Art of War on strategy, and it's not an easy read. Definitely recommend that. I definitely recommend you read some sociology textbooks, the kind that's taught to medical students, some psychology books that are taught to medical students, and some sociology books that would be taught to graduate students. I would definitely recommend you read some economics textbooks. And after that, there's so many to read, but stick with either things that med school students would read, psychologists would read, and behavioral scientists would be taught. That'll give you much more accurate information than the basic stuff you can buy at the bookstore. Because I read them all. Chris, let's go to the next one. Hi, Mike. How are you? Good to be here. I am doing great. Biggest challenge we have right now is my cat Cindy is confined to the house because of the hurricane in Florida. My power has been out twice, but you know what? So far, so good today. It's only been twice. But my cat, she likes to go out and bring me little lizard presents, which I don't really like, but she loves that. And she's stuck in the house, and she looks like this. So we've been tossing around balls, trying to do anything we can for the hat. So let's give everybody a cat hired for Cindy the cat. And I'm sure she'll do some troubleshooting today, eat through some Ethernet cables or something, keep herself happy. Thrilled you're here. Min Win. If Cloud Architect is your first tech job, how is the first couple months when you get Cloud hired? What's your advice to me to prove your worth? Well, first thing that I would do is start meeting people. So Min Win, when I left medicine and I got my first tech job, here's what I did. I was young, didn't have a lot of money, and I said to my wife, I'm getting another credit card. And she says, why, dear? I said, because I figure it's going to cost me about $5,000, and this is 20-some years ago, to buy lunches and dinners and drinks to get people to know me. So they like me before they figure out I don't know anything and I'm dumb. She laughed hysterically, and she says, you dumb, you have a genius IQ. And I said, yeah, but, I don't know if I know it yet. What I then did is I read 1,000 pages a day, Minwin, for the first 3 months of my career. I don't necessarily know that you have to do this. I didn't have to buy $5,000 in lunches. I only bought about $1,000 in lunches, and that was enough for me to get to meet people. What I did is I went and introduced myself to everyone. I had lunches with everybody, and as an introvert, that was a little scary. I would talk to people. I'd ask my manager to introduce me to people. I'd ask the people that I became friends with to introduce me to more people. Introduce yourself to many, many, many people. Start meeting managers. Start really getting to know your company. Find out what's important to that company and learn it. In most cases, they'll have some internal training. This is the way we like to write our documentation. This is the framework for delivering our presentations. This is the corporate message we want, and you're going to have to learn that. So you're doing things that are in line with corporate message. And then meet people, and learn. And realize it's going to be a little scary on your first projects. But the good news is architecture is a team sport. So what makes you successful versus not making you successful? If your focus has been on communication skills and soft skills and executive presence training and leadership training, poof, you got a brand new architecture, no big deal. You go find all the people that you met and you get them together in a room and you create some designs together. And then you'll have something that's really great. So then I'm going to give you an example of 2 architects. Which do you think would be better? I've got one architect with 25 years experience that thinks they're going to do it on their own. I've got another architect that has 0 experience and doesn't even know anything. But they've got good leadership skills, good sales skills, good executive presence. Now, this person who knows nothing puts together a team of 50 people that each have 10 years experience. So on the left, we got an expert architect with 20 years experience. On the right, we've got an architect that doesn't know that much, that brought together a team of 50 people with 10 years experience. That's 500 years experience. A network architect, an IM architect, a security architect, a database architect, application architects. Who do you think could have the better solution? The person that knows zero and brought together the team of 50 people with 500 years experience. So min-win, make sure you're trained properly as an architect, because you don't want to be the person that doesn't know anything at all. You need to know things, plus you need to know things to get past the job, the interview. But at that point, build your team. Build your leadership skills so that you can build the team of people you need. So when you get that project, and I promise you're going to get that project, and it's going to be sooner than you want it to be, build that network of people that you can call so they come to you. You work together, and your design is beautiful. While everybody else is going to be trying to do it on their own, thinking they can do it on their own and making major mistakes, build a team. One of my favorite expressions is the African proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Yes, if you want to do something quick, it's quicker to do it than building a team. But anything great is the work of many. So focus on your team building, and that's why I'm so soft skills obsessed. Because here's the thing, even when you have 20 years experience and you get an architecture, you're never going to be able to do it yourself, because you can only master one thing. One person can't even master all of networking. What I mean by that, I'm a Cisco certified internet expert. I was one of the first ones back when it was a 2-day exam before Cisco had to make it easy because too many people failed it. So, and what was my CCI on? Routing and switching. So routing protocols, and that's it. Then there was a CCI for network security. There was a CCI for network management. There was one for unified communications. Guess what? It took me 25 years to master routing and switching, and I still learn every day. I couldn't master all those CCI topics in a lifetime, and neither could anybody. And unless we're a vampire and we can live for thousands of years, I watch too many vampire movies, then, we're never going to ever learn it all ourselves. So the key is build your team. A team of 50 is greater than a team of 1. Whether you have 1 year experience or 10 years experience, you do that. Oh, wow, do you see what's going to happen? And when you present your work from the team to the customer, and you sell that work, when you're a brand new architect, wow, your career is going to be like this. You'll be on everybody's radar. It'll be a rocket ship. So build a team. Get to know everybody. Make relationships. Help others with few things you can do. Offer help, offer assistance, and go out there and build your team. Many is greater than 1. Great question, Minwin. Love that name, by the way. Kind of rhymes. Now, Wacko, in a company as toxic as Amazon, is it less toxic for a position involving cloud? I'm not going to say that Amazon is toxic. Those are your words. I know many people in all parts of Amazon that are very happy. The cloud architects that we have, the solution architects we've got jobs at Amazon are thrilled. They absolutely love it. They love it. I don't work for Amazon, but I speak to their management. Some of their managers call me constantly. The ones that I've spoken to were really great, wonderful people. I've gotten a lot of people hired at Amazon, and they love it. I don't know what toxic is. Toxic for one person is somebody else's dream. So there's that. Look, there's cultures where people fit in and cultures where people don't fit in. And that's okay too. But I don't know what toxic actually means. I know people that get shot at every day that still enjoy their lives. Some people would consider that toxic, but they're having a ball. I spent 7 years as a firefighter paramedic. I got shot at. I carried people down the stairs. We were tearing doors off cars. We're rescuing people in cars that were caught on fire. That's how I paid my way through school. Some people would consider that toxic. To me, I loved it. I had to stop because I had 5 herniated discs from the job. But, I loved it. So I don't know what you mean by toxic. Toxic is all about perception. And here's the thing. Some people think stress is a problem. Stress is not a problem. How we manage the stress is a problem. Our perception is everything. I've actually seen people that were spewing blood out their carotid artery that had 2 minutes to live that said, Mike, I don't need to go to the hospital, I'm fine. And I've seen somebody with a splinter in their finger that was panicked and said, I need morphine. It's perception. How does the person handle the stress? So I'm not going to call any company toxic. There's lots of people that depend on Amazon to support their families and feed their families throughout the entire world. Is it the right company for me? I don't know. But I'm not the person that's applying for the job. But I don't know that anything is toxic. I think it's how we perceive things, our attitude, our energy, our framework that determines whether something's good or something's bad. So there's that. And it may not even be the company. Sometimes you can have a bad manager. I worked at a great company with a bad manager, and it was a horrible experience. I switched teams and had a good manager, and it was the greatest thing in the world. So there's that too. So I don't know how to comment on that any other way, other than to say I've got a lot of people that I've trained that are very, very happy at Amazon. I've met people that are not happy at Amazon. I've met people that are happy at Cisco, which when I worked there was the best company in the world, and people that weren't happy, and it was a great company. It was the best job I ever had. So what determines toxic? Somebody's perception determines toxic. So all I know is the people that I speak to that are architects are pretty darn happy. And if they're not happy, they go to Microsoft and they're very happy. Or they go to another great company like a bank and they're very happy. In any case, they've got a good sticker on their resume, which is worth a lot of money in terms of brand value for the architect. Chris, let's go to the next one. Men and Wen, can you please share some do's and don'ts when you're a new team player? Sure, good question. Go meet people. Go to the relationships. Go show you're a team player. Don't look like you're in it for you. Don't be selfish. When you work on projects with others and it's successful, don't take credit for it. Thank the team members that helped you get there. You'll still be getting credit anyway as the leader. Do build relationships. Don't hide in a corner. Go out there and meet people. When everybody else is complaining, oh my God, this is hard, you're just getting warmed up. Be energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate. If people are complaining, don't participate in the complaining. Raise the energy in the room. Be like the child, this brilliant cloud architect on my team. She raises the energy in the room constantly. That's what players want. Energy, enthusiasm, and passion. So pop that energy there. Offer assistance to people. Take some people to lunch. Build your relationships. Build them. And like I said, when I took my first tech job out of medicine, my first tech job was a senior network engineer, which is a pretty complicated career. I bought everybody lunch with money I didn't even have. I put it on a credit card. But it didn't matter because the salary I was getting paid was enough for me to pay it off easily. So do what you need to. Do dress nicely. The better you dress, the more seriously it will be taken. Don't go in sloppy. And always have a good attitude. Be the happiest person in the room. Be grateful for the job. And I mean that because while some people are on TikTok trying to say that they don't want to work, you show that you care about the company and the success. He'll stand out. I had a manager who was a master sergeant from the Marine Corps. Some people thought he was rough to work for. I loved the guy. We got along great. I remember I was there for a month in a new job. The company did a 30% layoff, and he calls me and he says, Gibbs, you're safe. I'm like, what do you mean I'm safe? He says, don't worry about that layoff. And I'm like, why? He says, Gibbs, you got the right attitude, energy, enthusiasm. I got people that complain about work. They're laid off, not you. I ask you to do something and you say, when do you need it by? And you always deliver. He said so. And I remember that frequently. Be the person that always deliver. That's the easiest person to deal with the best attitude, energy, enthusiasm. You're going to do great when men win. Mr. Businessman. Mike, that breaks my heart that you're not a cigar smoker. Once you get hard, cloud hard, the plan was to come visit you and have tequilas and cigars. Let's do this. I got a bottle of Macallan 25 that's here. I will have a beautiful cigar for you, Mr. Businessman, when you come and visit me. And heck, when you're hired, I'll have a cigar with you. I'll have a cigar with you. I'm not a big smoker, but, I know you. And I know you're in Georgia and you're pretty close. And I can't wait to meet you, Mr. Businessman. And for you, I'll have a cigar just with you. That I'll provide the Macallan 25. And heck, if you like tequila, I think it's Patron that's good. I'll find the best bottle of tequila and I'll happily buy that as well. But I'm a Scotch drinker. But either case, I can't wait to meet you. And I can't wait till you're hired. Let's give everybody a Mr. Businessman, a cloud hired, who's a really great guy. He's getting very close to being cloud hired. Carlos Peace. Mike, the program has transformed how you speak, think, and learn technologies. Coworkers have noticed the changing your approach to business problems. I'm so happy to hear this, Carlos. This makes me so happy. Specialize in cloud security architect. What resources you recommend you study to go deeper into mastering? So, Carlos, that's a great question. So, Carlos, we go in every class pretty deep in terms of security. I would read the CISSP book. And here's the reason I would. The official one, not some Udemy course, not somebody's videos, the official book from ISC2. And here's the reason why. Architecture is kind of its end-to-end thing. There's some SIEM in there. There's some data loss prevention in there. So kind of read that. It'll give you a framework. Then, in our class, we get heavy into identity and access management, firewalls, IDS systems, IPS systems, server hardening, etc. So there's that. Find some other things. I would invest some good time into learning data loss prevention. I really would. I'd spend a little bit of time on SIEM type solutions. And I would get good at learning how to write a security policy, because you're going to be doing that. I would get good at studying about how do you train security personnel. Anti-phishing, for example, Carlos. Anti-social engineering training, and learn some of that. I would recommend that you get familiar with the tools that hackers actually use, like Kali Linux. And I don't want you to be a hacker, but I want you to understand the kind of operating systems that are vulnerable for exploitation, the kind of secure appliances and how they can mitigate those applications. Hey, do you use 2 sets of firewalls from different vendors and why and algorithms? What are you doing to look at event correlation and logging? So I'd really focus on those things. Because for the architect, writing that policy is going to be pretty critical. Determining user support and education training needs are going to be critical. If you can't figure out what your user base is, you can't figure out what kind of solutions the company could manage. And really, I'd get involved in learning other principles of security, including physical security. I've literally seen organizations spend millions on the best firewalls and IDS, IPS systems, and then they'll have a router that's plugged in. And you can literally plug into it by a hacker. Other companies might want to put Navy SEALs with machine guns on the roof to keep people from getting into the data center. I've seen perfect screens, retired SEALs, obviously, but professional bodyguards, etc. Those kind of people that come from special operations. So there's that. But those would be the kind of things that I really focus on. Focus on user training, user exercitation, assessment of situations, vulnerability attacks, vulnerability management, and ways to mitigate security challenges. You will have a great, great, great cloud security career. And Carlos, that is the right kind of question you're asking. That's an architect's question. How do I get better at my field? I love that. You're asking me your field. You're not asking me about databases or DevOps or other people's careers. Carlos, you got the right attitude. Love it, love it, love it. Spend some more time working on those things and you'll be great. SES, would having an expert level certification and an associate level certification make you more hireable? No, having an expert level certification makes you more hireable. The Azure Solutions Architect Expert is not an expert level certification. It's like a medium level certification. I would call it intro level. That wouldn't make you a multi-cloud expert either. So here's the thing. It's not the certifications that are going to teach you anything in multi-cloud. Here's the reason why. The certification teaches the name of a service and how to configure that service, but it doesn't teach you the underlying technology. An expert certification is a Cisco certified internet expert. It takes about 75,000 pages of reading. You could pass the AWS, Azure, and Google in less than 1,500 pages of reading. It's nothing. So they're kind of like junior level certs compared to expert level certs. What would make you a great cloud architect is to learn the cloud. Now, if I told you that all clouds are identical, and if you truly understood the cloud, if you knew you were dealing with a virtual machine, in the data center, it's going to be run by VMware, KVM, QEMU, or CitrixM. On AWS, they call it an EC2 instance. On Azure, they call it an Azure virtual machine. On Oracle, they call it an Oracle virtual machine. Google, they call it a compute engine instance. It's the same thing, probably on the same servers made by the same people. Object storage, does it matter if I call it object storage and I bought it from Dell EMC in my data center, which I have, or it's object storage on AWS called S3, or if it's object storage on Azure called Blob, or if it's object storage on Google called Cloud Storage? No, it's the same thing. So getting a bunch of silly certifications does not teach you the cloud at all. It teaches you how to configure things, not how to design them. And you're not an expert by learning how to configure. You're an expert by learning what the tech is, how to tune the tech, how to optimize the tech, how to build it. So what I'd recommend you do is the following. Learn the network and the data center, and then you know all clouds. Build clouds from scratch. Design clouds from scratch. Build an OpenStack cloud. Every one of my students does. And if you're our course, you'll do it on our hardware. If you're not with us, buy at least one server. It'll be at least $2,000, which is triple the cost of my course, but I don't care. I want you getting hired. Set up server virtualization, set up container orchestration, set up file servers, set up VPN concentrators, set up Active Directory, and build a cloud. When somebody else is wasting their time on an associate certification, you build a cloud, which is going to teach you more about cloud computing, building a cloud, or getting a certification that you can do in a weekend by just buying a practice exam. Don't focus on certifications, focus on expertise. How do you optimize your traffic routing with BGP? That's expert knowledge. How do you design an IP addressing plan so something can scale to 200,000 users without crashing? That's expertise. How do you optimize the WAN to the cloud? That's expertise. What are you doing on the switching side? How are you dealing with your VLANs and your tagging, your trunking? How are you bundling your links together and dealing with spanning tree or rapid spanning tree? That's expertise. Knowledge of server virtualization, the stuff that you can move to the cloud, is expertise. Knowledge of the kinds of firewalls to use, because we're not going to be using those cloud-native firewalls if we care about security. How do we architect security? What do we put in there? How do we lock down our systems, for example? What needs to occur? What kind of training needs to occur? People, that's architecture, and that's knowledge. How do we make databases scale? How do we not use those proprietary things and know which ones are our options? How do we maximize business performance? That's expertise. Lesson certification is the name of the service and how to configure it. So let's think about all these big jobs, the heavy engineering jobs and the architect jobs. Imagine you had to design a hotel, big, beautiful hotel. And I handed you a hammer and said, here, learn construction. That's what's in certification. So certification, the Azure, the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional isn't even an intro to junior level cloud computing. It's nothing. I'm not saying it's an easy certification to get, but it's the name of a service and how to configure it. It's not depth. So learn the network, learn the data center, and get one simple intro-level cert, like the Azure Solutions Architect Expert or the Google Professional Cloud Architect or the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. And then learn the network, and then learn the data center. If you want another certification, get a Cisco Certified Network Professional. Why? The cloud is nothing more than somebody else's network and data center. That Cisco Certified Network Professional is 10 times deeper than any of the cloud certs. It's still not enough, but it's better. So learn the cloud. That's why there's 500 hours of training in our Cloud Architect Career Development Training. 500 plus hours. There are, literally speaking, 6 hours of classes per week and a minimum of 8 months. That's 200 hours of live training. Now, many of my students go back and watch 200-300 hours of previous classes. In addition to that, then my students have projects, videos to watch, AWS training, Azure training, cloud training, data center training. More hours, probably 100 hours there. Then my students build projects, They turn in homework assignments and videos, another 100 or so hours of training there. And then my students do at least 100 hours of training, including building a cloud. That's how you become a cloud architect, expert, or even cloud engineering. It'll make you better that way too. But it's not about getting certs. Certs are name of service and how to configure that service. The certs like the Azure Solutions Architect Expert is almost enough to get a cloud admin job. Nowhere close to get a cloud engineer job, and nothing close to a cloud engineering job. An expert is not based upon certification. An expert has 10,000 hours in a minimum number of fields. That's expertise. Raj M. Official. I know HTML, CSS, and Old Foundation. Okay. Generally want to land a job in the cloud DevOps domain, but don't know the path of learning. Well, you said cloud and then you said DevOps. They're two different careers. What would you like to do? That is where I'm stuck. You want to get in the cloud, but you don't know which particular, you don't know. You got to know where you're going first, Raj. If I'm here in Palm Beach, Florida, which I am for the most part, and I want to go to India, where do I go? Am I going to Bangalore? Am I going to Mumbai? Calcutta? I need to know the definition. I need to know the destination first, because every one of these jobs has extremely different skills. The cloud architect is by far the highest paid of all the people. The cloud architect designs a solution, presents a solution, and sells a solution. That's what they do. A cloud engineer builds the solution. They're the construction crew. They code and configure all day. A DevOps engineer needs to be a software developer first, not an HTML developer, a good software developer first. And their career is based upon automating software release cycles and infrastructure as code deployments. What would you like to do, Raj? Do you want to be a hands-on techie? Do you want to get in front of customers? Because that's an architect role. Do you want to do security on the cloud? Because that's another job. Do you want to work on databases on the cloud? That's another job. Where is your ultimate destination? You can tell me that, because otherwise, the question you're honestly asking me is, which plane should I get on? And I say, well, would you like to go to Palm Beach? Would you like to go to London? Would you like to go to Nairobi? Would you like to go to Lagos? Would you like to go to Cape Town? Would you like to go to Cambodia? Would you like to go to Brisbane? Would you like to go to Sydney? Would you like to go to New York City? And if I don't know that, really where you're at is just going on things at random. So final year in school, that's okay. I studied medicine and learned medicine and then switched over to tech. What would you enjoy doing, Raj? Do you want to design, present, and sell a job? Then a hands-on build cloud job? Okay, you want to get into cloud architect. Okay, so here's the thing. It's going to be a totally different path. If you want to get a cloud architect, you're definitely going to need training because you cannot learn this career on your own. You're going to need to develop your business skills, which means you're going to need to learn how to sell. You're not going to have to learn how to build a business case. You're going to have to need the leadership skills to collect a large team of people. You're going to have to develop the communication skills to, to present to executives, present to management, present to engineers. You're going to have to develop the listening skills to listen to what the executives tell you and be able to write it down immediately. You're going to have to develop negotiation skills. And negotiation skills is, I feel like paying this. Negotiation skills are separating the people from the problem and negotiating $1 billion deal, because you'll be doing it as a cloud architect. I did it as a network architect years ago. You're going to need to know how to build an executive presentation. So you're going to need training for that. We could train you for that. You could get some of that training from an MBA program. I don't care where you get it, but you're going to need that. Then you must learn the underlying technologies, which is not software. It's networking and data center technologies, like servers and server virtualization, containers and container orchestration, and block storage, object storage, file storage, routing, switching protocols like that. The applications that can transform a business. Then you're going to need architecture training, which is putting the pieces all together, which is the exact opposite of certification training. Certification training is all about one piece. But imagine this. We're like the chef that plans the menu for a restaurant. You have to learn that. And Raj, it's a great job. I think it's fantastic, and you can do it. But you need to know where you want to go. So focus on your communication skills. Work on your presentation skills. Work on your leadership skills. You can't tell people, I need you to do this, and expect them to get it done. You're going to have to work with people that don't work for you, so you're going to have to sell them into wanting to work for you to get your job done. So we could train you with a cloud architect career development program, and it's going to be a lot of work, but you can do it. I promise you can do it. It's going to be a lot of work. Or you can get an MBA, which will teach you things, and then take some architecture training. Whatever the case is, Raj, it's a beautiful curve, and I wish you the best. I was into system admin for almost 11 years. Now you have a gap of 2 years. I'm certified as a cloud practitioner, and I couldn't see those, but not getting a job. You're not going to, based upon that. So I need to learn what I should do. What job do you want? Because a certification by itself is not enough for anything. It's just the name of a service and how to configure that service. What kind of sysadmin work, and what do you want to do? You can't just learn cloud. You could spend 1,000 years learning cloud and still not know it all. What would you like to do on the cloud? So if you tell us what you would like to do, we can tell you how to get there. For example, if you've been doing sysadmin work and you want to be an architect, we need to show you why you're not a sysadmin and why you're an architect. For example, if you want to be a cloud engineer, we need to determine if you have the cloud engineering skills. Again, not going to be covered in a certification. What is your level of communication skills like? You could be the world's greatest, most knowledgeable person, but if I interview you and you can't get it out in a manner that I can understand it, I can't hire you. Because I won't know that you have capabilities. I'm not going to give you a coding test. I'm going to make you explain something to me. How does this work? How do you do this? I want to see if you can explain it to me. Do you really know it? Or do you did you pass a multiple choice exam and you only know how to answer a multiple choice? Or are you going to give me a superficial answer? I'm going to judge your competency based upon your communication. So what are you communicating? Those would be the things that I need to know. So tell me the destination, and I can tell you there. It's not your background. I had Balwinder. She's a student. She was wonderful in mine. Balwinder had a job many years ago, and she's been a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. Then she worked in customer service. Now she's a solutions architect with Microsoft because we gave her the right training. I've had lots of people that have gaps of 8 and 10 years on their resume that got past it. That's fine. But it's having the right skills. I'm hearing certifications. Skills, not certifications. Skills, not certifications. Capability, not certifications. So tell me that. I can help you get there. Foreign T. Mike, does taking the LinkedIn assessment on LinkedIn boost your chance of getting hired? No. What boosts your chance of getting hired is having competency, having the right brand for you, having the right skill set for you. When you're interviewed, proving it to the employer that you're capable of doing the right skills, having the right energy, enthusiasm, and passion. Like, getting hired is not a challenge when you have that. My students get people coming after them constantly because they have the right brand. Doing a bunch of LinkedIn skills assessments doesn't mean anything. It means pass a multiple choice exam. Anybody can pass a multiple choice exam. Can you do it? That's what we're looking for. An interview is not going to be like this. So please tell me which is the preferred path for BGP. Is it the path with the highest weight? Is it the path with the highest local preference? Is it the path with the lowest multi-axis discriminator? I'm not going to ask somebody that. If they don't know to say, first is the weight, then is the local preference, then et cetera, I can't hire them. They don't know it. So don't take an assessment. Learn it. Make posts on LinkedIn that show your expertise and authority. Get in with the right group of people. Learn the right things. Build your brand. The world will come to you. let the other people get distracted by silly things like this. Focus on building your capabilities. The cream always rises to the top, so be the best. You'll be the best. When you're the best, the world will come to you, assuming they know about you. So do some brand building. Okay, and this is going to be the last question I can take for the day. Buzz, hey Mike, I enrolled in the AWS Solution Architect Bootcamp. That's October. Is that recommended for the cloud architect since you enrolled in our course? Well, Buzz, here's what we're going to do. You're in our course, and I know who you are, and you're learning cloud architecture, cloud architecture, cloud architecture. But I would still come to this because we're going to do a lot more tech stuff. Normally in classes, we do much more heavy-duty architectural training, and this is going to be a much more junior level fundamentals training. But we all have to take and pass some exams along the way. At least, ideally, get one certification to show somebody you've got some background. So I recommend it. My students come and participate the entire time. They love it. So please come to both. The more training and education that's focused that we can get you is going to help you. I will be teaching that live boot camp, and believe me, it won't be like anybody else's certification nonsense. We're going to talk about real cloud concepts, and it'll enhance your knowledge. So please come to it. It's free anyway. Please, I'd love to see you there, Buzz. Okay, at this point, I'd like to thank you all. I must go. We're not sure what the rest of my day is going to be like with Hurricane Ian here, but I must go at this point. Thank you for participating. Join us tomorrow on the completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. I will literally present for an hour, and it'll be on Zoom. You can ask questions for an hour straight. We're currently offering a 30% off sale, and if you want to get cloud hired, now is your time. Take advantage of the 30% sale, and it applies to every program we have. Every program we have. Sign up for some of the free sessions we have coming in. We have Ivan Tamba, my student who got hired from his first architect job at AWS, is going to come and talk to you. Sign up for that. We have my friend Alvin, a VP over at NVIDIA, that's going to talk about things that hiring managers want in the perfect employees and how to get promoted. I'm going to do a free interview session this month. So follow me on LinkedIn and sign up for the forum so you can be there. We're going to do free AWS Solution Architect Associate and an AWS Advanced Networking, plus the stuff you need to know. So sign up. Can't wait to see you. And why do we do what we do? To get you hired. It's all about getting cloud hired. So please give me a hashtag cloud hired, everybody, and a hashtag cloud architect or cloud engineer, because we want you to get that cloud architect job, that solution architect job, that enterprise architect job, that cloud engineer job, or any job you desire. This is Michael Gibbs, and I look forward to seeing you in another session. Take care, everyone.